Captain Jake Morrison stared at the star charts on his command screen. The mining ship Starfire had been scanning asteroids for 3 weeks now, looking for rare metals that Earth needed. It was boring work, but someone had to do it. The outer rim was full of rocks that nobody wanted, which made it perfect for human mining operations. "Captain, I'm getting some strange readings from Sector 7, called Amy Foster from her communication station. She was young, maybe 25, with short red hair and sharp green eyes that missed nothing. "Looks like there might be something worth checking out." Morrison nodded and walked over to look at her screen. The readings showed unusual energy patterns coming from a small moon about 2 hours away. It could be natural formations, but it could also be valuable minerals. Either way, they needed to investigate. "Lisa, set course for those coordinates," Morrison said to his pilot. Lisa Carter was the best pilot he had ever worked with. She could fly through an asteroid field like it was empty space. Her hands moved across the controls without thinking, already plotting their route. In the engine room, Danny Rodriguez was checking the power systems. He was a genius with machines, able to fix anything that broke and improve things that already worked fine. The ship's engines hummed under his care like a well-tuned instrument. Ben Walsh stood near the weapons station, though the Starfire only had basic defensive systems. He was their security chief, a big man with military training who kept everyone safe. Most mining ships never needed security, but Morrison believed in being prepared. The journey to the moon took exactly 2 hours and 12 minutes. As they approached, the energy readings got stronger. Foster ran every scan she could think of, but the results were confusing. "Captain, I'm picking up metal fragments on the surface. Looks like a crash site," she reported. "But the energy signatures don't match any known technology." Morrison studied the readings. The crashed ship was clearly alien, which meant it could be valuable. Alien technology was worth more than any mineral they could mine. But it also meant danger. Humans had met other species before, and not all of them were friendly. "Any signs of life?" Morrison asked. Foster shook her head. "Nothing showing on the scanners. Whatever happened down there, it happened a while ago." Morrison made his decision. "Lisa, take us down to a safe landing distance. Ben, Danny, you're with me. Amy, keep scanning and stay ready to get us out of here fast if something goes wrong." The 3 men took a shuttle down to the moon's surface. The gravity was light, making each step feel like bouncing. The crashed alien ship was bigger than it had looked from orbit, maybe twice the size of the Starfire. It was made of some dark metal that seemed to absorb light. "This is incredible," Danny said, running his scanner over the hull. "The metal composition is unlike anything I've ever seen. And look at these energy conduits. The power systems must be incredibly advanced." Ben kept his weapon ready while they explored. Something felt wrong about the crash site. The ship was damaged but not destroyed. Pieces of the hull were scattered around, but they were arranged too neatly. It looked almost like someone had placed them there on purpose. "Captain," Ben said quietly, "I don't like this. The debris pattern is all wrong. This wasn't a natural crash." Morrison trusted Ben's instincts. The man had kept him alive through 3 wars and countless dangerous situations. If Ben was worried, there was good reason to be worried. "Danny, grab what you can carry. We're leaving in 5 minutes, Morrison ordered. But they never got the chance. The air around them shimmered, and suddenly they were surrounded by 8-foot-tall creatures that seemed to appear out of nothing. They looked like giant lizards walking on 2 legs with dark green scales and yellow eyes that gleamed with intelligence. Each one carried weapons that hummed with deadly energy. The largest of the creatures stepped forward. When it spoke, its voice was deep and rough, like gravel grinding together. "Welcome, humans. I am Huntmaster Zekthul of the Kethvar. You have walked into our trap perfectly." Morrison's hand moved toward his weapon, but Ben grabbed his arm. They were outnumbered and surrounded. Any sudden movement would get them all killed. "What do you want?" Morrison asked, trying to keep his voice steady. Zekthul's mouth opened in what might have been a smile, showing rows of sharp teeth. "We are hunters, and you are our prey. Your species has been traveling through our territory for months now. We have studied you, learned your weaknesses. You are soft, slow, and weak. Perfect quarry for our young hunters to practice on." The other Kethavar made sounds that might have been laughter. Morrison felt his blood turn cold. These creatures hunted sentient beings for sport. Your ship has 5 crew members, Zekthul continued. We will hunt you one by one. It will be amusing to watch you try to survive. Your fear will make the hunt more enjoyable. Danny stepped closer to Morrison. Captain, the energy readings I detected earlier, I think they were cloaking devices. They've been watching us the whole time. Zekthul nodded approvingly. Your small one is clever. Yes, we have been observing you. We know how you think, how you fight, how you die. You will provide excellent sport for our younglings. Ben's muscles tensed. Morrison could see him calculating angles and distances, looking for any advantage. But there were too many enemies, and their weapons were too advanced. We give you a gift, Zekthul announced. 10 minutes to return to your shuttle and reach your ship. After that, the hunt begins. Try to run, try to hide, try to fight, it matters not. We will find you, and we will claim your lives as trophies. The Kethvar began to fade from view as their cloaking devices activated. Only Zekthul remained visible for a moment longer. Run, little humans, he said with that terrible smile. The hunt begins soon, and we are very, very hungry. The sun began to set on the small moon, casting long shadows across the rocky landscape. Morrison watched the darkness creep over the battlefield and smiled. The Kethvar had made their first big mistake by starting this hunt during the day. Danny, how are those night vision modifications coming along? Morrison asked. Danny held up 3 sets of goggles that he had built using parts from the alien wreckage. Ready, Captain. I used their own sensor technology against them. These should let us see in complete darkness. Ben tested his pair and grinned. This is perfect. I fought in night operations back on Mars. Darkness is a soldier's best friend if you know how to use it. Up on the Starfire, Amy had been busy decoding more of the Kethvar communications. What she discovered made her blood run cold. Lisa, you need to hear this. I've been listening to their ship communications. This isn't their first hunt. They have trophies from dozens of different species. They've been doing this for years. Lisa's hands tightened on the ship's controls. What kind of trophies? Skulls, mostly. But also recordings of their hunts. They watch them for entertainment. Lisa, some of these species were trying to surrender when they were killed. The pilot's face went hard as stone. She had seen pirates kill innocent miners before, but this was worse. These creatures hunted people for fun. Amy, I want you to record everything we do from now on. When we get back to Earth, everyone needs to know about this. Already on it, and Lisa, I found something else. The Kethvar have poor night vision. They rely on their technology to see in the dark. Down on the moon's surface, Morrison was planning his next move. 6 Kethvar hunters were dead, but that left at least 6 more active on their ship. It was time to stop playing defense. Ben, how do you feel about going hunting? Ben's smile was not pleasant. I've been waiting for you to ask, Captain. These things want to hunt people for sport? Let's show them what real hunters can do. Danny finished setting up his latest creation. He had turned one of the alien communication devices into a signal jammer that would disrupt their cloaking technology within a 50-meter radius. Captain, this should make them visible when they get close to us, but it only works in a small area. That's perfect, Morrison said. We're not going to wait for them to come to us. We're going after them. As full darkness fell, the 3 humans moved out from their defensive position. The night vision goggles gave them a huge advantage as they navigated the rocky terrain. They could see everything clearly while the Kethvar stumbled around half-blind. Huntmaster Zekthul was growing frustrated. His remaining hunters reported that they could not locate the humans in the darkness. Their heat sensors showed nothing, and their motion detectors were being confused by the wind blowing dust across the landscape. How can 3 primitive creatures hide so effectively, he demanded. Perhaps they are not as primitive as we thought, suggested his second-in-command. They have killed 6 of our best hunters. Zekthul struck his subordinate across the face. Do not speak such foolishness. They are prey. We are predators. That is the natural order. But the natural order was about to be turned upside down. Morrison's team had located 2 Kethvar hunters moving through a narrow canyon. The aliens were using flashlights to see. making themselves perfect targets. Ben positioned himself on the canyon rim while Morrison and Danny flanked the hunters from both sides. The first Kethvar never knew what hit him. Ben's shot took him down silently. The second hunter spun around in confusion, trying to figure out where the attack had come from. That was when Morrison stepped out of the shadows. "Looking for someone?" Morrison asked. The hunter raised his weapon, but Danny's signal jammer activated at that moment. The alien's cloaking device failed and his energy rifle sparked and died. He stood there in the darkness, completely helpless. "You cannot do this," the Kethvar said in broken English. "We are the hunters. You are the prey." "Not anymore," Ben said from above and pulled the trigger. The psychological effect on the remaining Kethvar was immediate. They had never been hunted before. They did not know what it felt like to be afraid, to wonder if death was waiting around every corner. Amy intercepted their panicked communications. "They're terrified," she reported to Lisa. "They keep asking how the humans can see in the dark and why their weapons keep failing." "Good," Lisa said. "Fear makes people make mistakes." She was positioning the Starfire for her own attack run on the Kethvar ship. The alien vessel was still cloaked, but Amy had gotten a solid lock on its position. Lisa's plan was simple and direct. The Starfire was a mining ship equipped with powerful cutting lasers designed to slice through asteroids. Lisa intended to find out how well those lasers worked on alien hulls. Back on the moon, Morrison's team had found their next targets. 3 Kethvar were huddled together near the original crash site, trying to use their ship's wreckage for cover. They had given up trying to hunt and were now just trying to survive. "This is wrong," one of them was saying. "Prey does not hunt predators. It is against the natural order." "Tell that to all the people you've murdered," Ben whispered, and opened fire. The night became filled with the sounds of battle, but now it was the Kethvar who were dying. Morrison's team moved through the darkness like ghosts, striking without warning and disappearing before their enemies could respond. Danny's modifications to the alien weapons proved deadly effective. Every time a Kethvar tried to fire, his weapon had a 50% chance of exploding. The hunters began to fear their own equipment more than the humans. Huntmaster Zekthal watched his hunting party being destroyed and felt something he had never experienced before. Fear. Real, cold, paralyzing fear. The humans were not just fighting back, they were winning. "Send a message to the home fleet," he ordered. "Tell them we need reinforcements." But when his communications officer tried to send the message, nothing happened. Amy had jammed all their long-range communications. They were trapped on this moon with creatures that refused to act like prey. Above them, Lisa brought the Starfire in for her attack run. The Kethvar ship's shields were strong, but they were designed to stop energy weapons and missiles, not industrial cutting lasers operating at close range. Lisa flew her ship like she was threading a needle, dodging the alien ship's defensive fire while keeping her cutting lasers locked on target. The mining lasers burned through the Kethvar hull like it was made of paper. "Their engine room is venting atmosphere," Amy reported. "I'm reading multiple system failures across their ship." "Perfect," Lisa said. "Let's see how they like being helpless." On the moon's surface, the last 2 Kethvar hunters had barricaded themselves in a cave, too terrified to come out. Morrison's team surrounded the entrance and waited. "Come out and face judgment," Morrison called into the cave. "You wanted to hunt people for sport. Now you know what it feels like to be prey." The aliens' response was a stream of curses in their own language, followed by desperate pleas for mercy. "Mercy?" Ben laughed coldly. "Did you show mercy to all those other species you hunted? Did you show mercy when they begged for their lives?" There was no response from the cave. Huntmaster Zekthal realized that his entire hunting expedition had been destroyed by 5 humans. 5 creatures that his species had dismissed as weak and harmless. The irony was bitter and terrible. His ship was crippled, his hunters were dead, and he was trapped on this moon with predators that were far more dangerous than anything the Kethvar had ever encountered. For the first time in his life, Zekthal understood what it meant to be prey, and he discovered that he did not like the feeling at all. Morrison stood at the entrance to the cave where the last 2 Kethvar hunters were hiding. The silence stretched on for long minutes. When the aliens finally spoke, their voices were shaking with fear. Please, one of them called out in broken English. We surrender. We will leave your territory and never return. Ben laughed, but there was no humor in the sound. Surrender? How many of your victims tried to surrender? How many begged for their lives while you recorded their deaths? For entertainment? Morrison pulled out a small device that Amy had given him. It was a translation unit loaded with Kethvar language patterns. When he activated it, the aliens' own words came back to haunt them. The device played recordings from their ship's database, voices of dozens of different species pleading for mercy, children crying for their parents, adults begging the Kethvar to spare their families. And through it all, the laughter of hunters who found suffering amusing. No, Morrison said quietly. There will be no surrender. Not for you. Danny had been working on something while Morrison and Ben kept watch. He emerged from behind a pile of rocks carrying a device that hummed with alien energy. Captain, I've modified their stasis technology. This will keep them alive but helpless. We can take them back to human space as evidence of what they've been doing. Ben shook his head. Danny, these things have been murdering people for sport. They don't deserve to live. Maybe not, Morrison said, but they deserve to face justice for their crimes. And more importantly, we need them alive to learn about their species. How many more hunting ships are out there? How many more innocent people are going to die if we don't stop this? The discussion was interrupted by Amy's voice over the comm system. Captain, you need to get back to the ship. I've been analyzing the data from the Kethvar vessel, and what I found is going to make you very angry. 20 minutes later, Morrison and his team were back on the Starfire, leaving the two surviving hunters trapped in Danny's stasis field. Amy had the main screen showing images from the alien database. They've been hunting sentient species for over 200 years, Amy reported, not just killing them, but studying them first. They learn about each species' culture, their fears, their weaknesses. Then they design hunts specifically to cause maximum terror and suffering. The images on the screen showed trophies from dozens of different species. Some Morrison recognized from previous human contact. Others were completely unknown. All had been murdered for sport. There's more, Amy continued. This isn't just one ship. The Kethvar have an entire fleet dedicated to hunting. They call it the Great Hunt, and it's a major part of their society. Young Kethvar prove themselves as adults by participating in these massacres. Lisa's hands were shaking with rage. How many ships are we talking about? At least 50, maybe. More, and Captain. They've been specifically targeting human colonies on the outer rim. We weren't just unlucky. They've been studying us for months, planning to make humans their next major prey species. Morrison felt something cold and hard settle in his chest. These creatures hadn't just attacked his ship. They were planning to hunt down every human they could find. Men, women, children. All of them marked for death in the name of sport. Danny, how much of their technology have you figured out? Danny looked up from his workstation. Most of it, Captain. Their systems are actually pretty straightforward once you understand the basic principles. I can replicate their weapons, their cloaking devices, even their faster-than-light communications. Good, because we're going to need all of it. Ben understood immediately. You're planning to go after the rest of their fleet. Not just go after them, Morrison said. I'm planning to hunt them down and destroy every single one of their ships. They want to play the hunting game. Let's show them how humans play it. Amy had been monitoring Kethvar communications frequencies and discovered something disturbing. Captain, I'm picking up transmissions from other hunting ships. They're coordinating attacks on human settlements. 3 colonies are going to be hit within the next week. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Morrison looked at each of his crew members and saw the same cold determination in their eyes that he felt in his own heart. Lisa, plot a course for the nearest colony under threat. Danny, I want every weapon system on this ship upgraded with alien technology. Amy, send a message to Earth Command. Tell them about the Kethvar threat and give them everything we've learned. What about the survivors in the cave? Ben asked. Morrison's smile was not pleasant. We're taking them with us. They're going to help us find their friends. The interrogation of the captured Kethvar was swift and brutal. Morrison discovered that humans could be very persuasive when the lives of their people were at stake. Ben's military training included techniques for extracting information from prisoners, and he used every one of them. The aliens broke quickly. They had never experienced real fear before, and they could not handle the psychological pressure that humans applied. Within hours, they had revealed the locations of 12 hunting ships and the schedule for attacks on human colonies. They're targeting families, Amy reported after analyzing the intelligence. The Kethvar specifically hunt civilians because they put up less resistance. They think it's more sporting to kill people who can't fight back. Danny had finished his weapons upgrades. The Starfire now mounted energy cannons that could punch through any known shielding, and a cloaking device that made them invisible to most sensors. Captain, we're not a mining ship anymore. We're a warship now. Morrison nodded. Good, because we're going to war. The first Kethvar hunting ship never saw them coming. The Starfire dropped out of faster-than-light travel directly behind the Yaim alien vessel and opened fire before the hunters could react. The battle lasted exactly 37 seconds. Morrison had Danny scan the wreckage for survivors. There were none. The entire crew of 23 hunters had been vaporized in the first salvo. No distress signal, Amy reported. They never had a chance to warn the others. Perfect, Morrison said. On to the next target. The second hunting ship lasted slightly longer, managing to get its shields up and return fire. But human reflexes and Danny's weapon modifications proved superior to Kethvar technology. Lisa flew circles around the alien ship while Ben targeted their weapons and engines with surgical precision. This time, Morrison allowed some of the crew to survive long enough to send a message to their fleet. The message was simple and direct. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the human vessel Starfire. Your hunting days are over. Surrender now, or we will destroy every one of your ships. The response from the Kethvar fleet was predictable. They laughed at the idea of a single human ship threatening their entire hunting operation. They sent 3 ships to deal with the problem. All 3 ships were destroyed within an hour. Word spread quickly through the Kethvar fleet. The humans had somehow obtained advanced weapons and were actively hunting the hunters. For the first time in their species' history, the Kethvar were afraid. Huntmaster Zekthal, now a prisoner on the Starfire, watched the destruction of his people's ships with growing horror. These humans were not just defending themselves. They were systematically exterminating every Kethvar they could find. You cannot do this, he protested to Morrison. We are a proud warrior race. You are just prey animals. Morrison looked at the alien with cold eyes. We were never prey. We were just waiting for you to give us a reason to stop pretending to be civilized. The hunt had indeed begun. But now the humans were the ones doing the hunting, and they were very, very good at it. 6 months after the first encounter on the small moon, the Starfire hung in space near the Kethvar homeworld. Morrison stood on the bridge, watching the planet through the main viewer. It was a beautiful world, with green continents and blue oceans that reminded him of Earth. It was hard to believe that such a lovely planet had produced a race of monsters. Final count, Amy, Morrison said quietly. Amy Foster checked her records one last time. 47 hunting ships destroyed, Captain. Over 1,500 Kethvar hunters eliminated. We've saved approximately 30,000 civilians from 12 different species. Danny Rodriguez looked up from his workstation. The weapon modifications are complete, Captain. We can take out their planetary defense grid whenever you give the order. Morrison nodded but did not give the command yet. The Starfire had been transformed over the past months from a simple mining vessel into the most feared ship in the galaxy. Danny's engineering genius had combined human technology with captured Kethvar equipment to create something entirely new. They had become hunters of hunters. Ben Walsh monitored the communications from the planet below. They know we're here. Captain, the planetary government is demanding that we leave their territory immediately. What about our demands? Morrison asked. They refuse to shut down the Great Hunt program. They claim it's part of their ancient culture and that other species should accept their place as prey. Morrison's face hardened. Then they've made their choice. The final battle had been building for months. Word of the human ship had spread throughout the galaxy. Some species called them heroes. Others called them terrorists. The Kethvar called them demons. Morrison did not care what anyone called them. He only cared about stopping the hunting of innocent people. "Captain," Amy said, "I'm receiving a transmission from the planet. It's Huntmaster Zekthul." Morrison had kept the original Huntmaster alive as a prisoner for 6 months, using him to gather intelligence about Kethvar operations. Now it seemed the alien leader wanted to talk. "Put him on screen." Zekthul appeared on the main viewer. The proud hunter who had once threatened to make trophies of human skulls now looked broken and defeated. 6 months of watching his people's hunting ships destroyed one by one had changed him. "Captain Morrison," Zekthul said, "I want to make a deal. I'm listening. My people are terrified. You have turned us from hunters into the hunted. Our young no longer want to join the great hunt because they fear meeting humans in space. You have broken something fundamental in our society." Morrison felt no sympathy. "Good. Maybe now you understand how all those other species felt when you hunted them. I offer you this," Zekthul continued. "Release me, and I will convince my people to abandon the great hunt forever. We will become traders and explorers. Instead of hunters, no more killing for sport." Ben Walsh snorted with laughter. "Captain, don't trust him. The moment we let him go, he'll organize a fleet to come after us." But Morrison was thinking bigger than just one ship or one crew. "What guarantee do I have that your people will keep their word?" "You have already provided the guarantee," Zekthul said. "Fear. My people now know that humans are apex predators who cannot be hunted safely. They will not risk awakening your species' wrath again." Morrison looked at his crew. They had spent 6 months hunting down Kethvar ships, and all of them were tired. But they had also become something new in the process. They were no longer simple miners and engineers. They were protectors of the innocent, defenders of the weak. "There's one more condition," Morrison said. "Your people will help us locate and free any survivors from your previous hunts. Every slave, every prisoner, every person you've captured for sport. They all go home." Zekthul nodded quickly. "Agreed. Anything to end this war." "War?" Morrison smiled coldly. "This wasn't a war. This was an extermination. The only reason your species still exists is because I chose to show mercy. Remember that." Lisa Carter had been plotting courses back to human space. "Captain, Earth Command has been sending messages for weeks. They want us to return immediately for debriefing." "What kind of messages?" "Mixed, sir. Some are congratulating us for protecting human colonies. Others are concerned about our methods. Apparently some alien governments are complaining that we've become too aggressive." Amy pulled up the relevant communications. "Several species are demanding that Earth control its rogue warship before humans become a threat to galactic peace." Morrison read through the messages and laughed. "They're afraid of us now. Good. Fear prevents wars better than treaties." Danny had been analyzing data from all the Kethvar ships they had destroyed. "Captain, I've learned enough about alien technology to give humanity a significant military advantage. The weapons and defense systems I've developed are years ahead of anything currently deployed." "That information goes straight to Earth Command," Morrison decided. "If other species want to treat humans as a threat, we might as well be prepared to defend ourselves." The journey back to human space took 2 weeks. During that time, Morrison compiled a complete report of everything they had learned about alien species, technologies, and threats. The report was thousands of pages long and contained detailed information about 57 different civilizations. Most importantly, it contained proof that humans were not alone in the galaxy and that some of their neighbors were very dangerous. When the Starfire finally docked at Earth's orbital station, Morrison and his crew were greeted as heroes by some and as vigilantes by others. The media could not decide whether they had saved humanity or endangered it by making enemies across the galaxy. Admiral Sarah Johnson of Earth Command met them personally at the docking bay. "Captain Morrison, you and your crew have caused quite a stir. Half the galaxy is afraid of humans now." "Good," Morrison replied. "Fear keeps people honest. The other half wants to be our allies because we proved we can protect them from predators, like the HFY. Even better. Admiral Johnson studied Morrison's face. Captain, what you and your crew did out there was extraordinary, but it also changed how other species see humanity. We're not the new kids anymore. We're players in galactic politics. Morrison nodded. Admiral, there are things hunting people in the dark between the stars. Someone needs to hunt them back. My crew and I volunteer for that job. I was hoping you'd say that. We're forming a new division of the fleet. Deep space patrol ships designed to protect all species from threats like the HFY. Interested in commanding the first squadron? Morrison looked at his crew. Lisa was already planning their next mission. Amy was cataloging alien languages for better communication. Danny was designing new weapon systems. Ben was studying star charts for potential trouble spots. They had started as miners looking for valuable rocks. They had become protectors of the innocent and guardians of peace. It was a good transformation. We accept the assignment, Admiral. When do we leave? 3 months later, 5 ships similar to the modified Starfire patrolled the outer rim territories. Each carried human crews trained in the new methods of alien contact and defense. They were diplomats when possible, warriors when necessary. Word spread quickly through the galaxy that humans were actively protecting other species from predators and pirates. The hunting of sentient beings for sport became virtually extinct, as potential hunters learned to fear human retribution. Morrison stood on the bridge of his new ship, the Defender, watching the stars. Somewhere out there, other species were living their lives in peace because humans had chosen to stand guard in the darkness. It was good work, and Morrison was proud to do it. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Humans might look weak and harmless, but they were neither. When pushed, humans became the most dangerous hunters in the galaxy, and they never forgot their friends or forgave their enemies. The moment the HFY disappeared, Morrison grabbed his team and ran toward the shuttle. But Danny Rodriguez had other ideas. Instead of following, he sprinted back to the alien wreckage and started pulling components from the crashed ship. Danny, what are you doing? We need to go now, Morrison shouted. Give me 2 minutes, Captain, Danny called back, his hands working fast over the alien technology. These power cells are still active, I can use them. Ben Walsh positioned himself between Danny and the area where the hunters had vanished. His military training kicked in as he scanned the landscape for defensive positions. The moon's surface was covered with rocks and small craters that could provide cover. Captain, they gave us 10 minutes, but that doesn't mean they'll wait, Ben said. They want us to panic and run, that's what prey does. Morrison realized Ben was right. The HFY expected them to act like frightened animals. But humans were different. When cornered, humans fought back. Danny, whatever you're doing, do it fast. Ben, what are our options? Ben pointed to a cluster of large rocks about 50 meters away. That ridge gives us high ground and cover. If they come from the expected direction, we can see them coming. But Captain, we're not running to the shuttle? Not yet, Morrison said. If we go back to the ship, they'll just hunt us there. Better to make our stand here where we have room to move. Danny finished pulling components from the wreck and stuffed them into his pack. Got what I need. These energy cells are amazing. I can jury-rig some surprises with these. The 3 men moved quickly to the rocky ridge. Ben immediately started setting up firing positions and escape routes. His combat experience told him exactly how to use the terrain to their advantage. Meanwhile, back on the Starfire, Amy Foster was frantically scanning the area around the moon. She had heard the entire conversation through the comm system and knew her crewmates were in deadly danger. Lisa, I'm picking up multiple energy signatures moving around the moon's surface. They're using some kind of cloaking technology, but it's not perfect, Amy reported. Lisa Carter was already running pre-flight checks. How many are we dealing with? At least 12, maybe more. And there's something else. I'm detecting a large ship hidden in the asteroid field. It's been there the whole time, watching us. Lisa's face went hard. She had grown up in the asteroid. Mining colonies where pirates and claim jumpers were constant threats. She knew how to handle bullies who thought they were tough. Amy, can you get me a lock on their ship? Working on it. Their cloaking is good, but they're using active scanners to watch us. I can track the scanning beams back to their source. On the moon's surface, Danny was working with the alien components like a man possessed. His engineering background had taught him that all technology followed certain basic rules. Power flowed from source to destination. Circuits completed loops. Energy wanted to be released. "Captain, I've got 3 improvised explosive devices ready," Danny announced. "The alien power cells pack more punch than anything we have on the ship. I can set them as proximity mines or remote detonators." Ben took the devices and started placing them along likely approach routes. "These hunters are used to prey that runs in straight lines. They won't expect us to lay traps." Morrison studied the terrain through his binoculars. "There. Movement at 2 o'clock. They're coming." 3 Kethvar hunters were approaching in a spread formation, their cloaking devices making them shimmer, like heat mirages. They moved confidently, expecting to find cowering humans hiding behind rocks. "They're not taking us seriously," Ben observed. "Look at their formation, they're hunting animals, not soldiers." The first hunter stepped directly onto one of Danny's improvised mines. The explosion lit up the moon's surface and sent chunks of alien hunter flying in all directions. The other 2 Kethvar stopped in shock. "What was that?" One of them hissed in their own language. "Impossible," the other replied. "The prey species cannot fight back. They are weak and helpless." But Morrison's team was just getting started. Ben had the second hunter in his sights when the alien tried to move to a better position. One clean shot from Ben's rifle took the creature down before it could react. The third hunter activated his cloaking device and disappeared completely. But Danny had been studying the alien technology and understood how their systems worked. "Amy, are you monitoring their communications?" Morrison asked through his comm. "Yes, Captain. I'm learning their language patterns. They're confused and angry. They keep saying we're not behaving like proper prey." "Good. Let them stay confused." The cloaked hunter tried to circle around behind them, but Ben had anticipated this move. Years of fighting human enemies had taught him how to track invisible opponents. Every step left traces. Every movement disturbed dust. Every breath created tiny sounds. Ben threw a handful of dust into the air where he thought the hunter was hiding. The particles outlined the invisible creature for just a moment, but that was enough. Morrison and Ben both fired at the same time. Huntmaster Zekthul watched from a distant ridge as 3 of his hunters died in the space of 5 minutes. This was not how a hunt was supposed to go. Prey ran and hid and begged for mercy. They did not set traps and fight back with such effectiveness. "Send in 3 more hunters," he ordered his subordinates. "These humans are more dangerous than we thought." Back on the Starfire, Amy had successfully tracked the Kethvar ship's location. Lisa was already moving their own vessel into position. "I count at least 30 life signs on their ship," Amy reported, "but most of them seem to be in some kind of stasis. Only about 8 are active." "So they brought backup hunters," Lisa said grimly. "Amy, can you jam their communications?" "Already working on it. Their communication system is actually pretty simple once you understand the frequency patterns." Lisa smiled coldly. "Then let's make sure they can't call for help when they realize they're in trouble." On the moon's surface, Danny was working on his next surprise. He had figured out how to modify the alien energy weapons to overload and explode. "Captain, I can turn their own weapons into bombs. Every time they try to shoot us, there's a chance their gun will blow up in their hands." Morrison looked at his engineer with new respect. "How are you doing this so fast?" "Their technology is advanced, but it's still just technology. Energy flows. Circuits connect. Systems have limits. Push any system past its limits and it breaks. Sometimes it breaks violently." The next wave of Kethvar hunters approached more carefully. They had learned that these humans were not helpless prey, but they still did not understand what they were really facing. When the first hunter fired his weapon at Ben's position, the energy rifle exploded in his hands. The alien screams echoed across the moon's surface as he collapsed, badly wounded. The second hunter tried to retreat but stepped on another of Danny's mines. The third hunter made it halfway back to his own lines before Ben's sniper training put an end to his escape. Huntmaster Zekthul stared at the battlefield in growing horror. 6 hunters dead, and the humans had not lost a single member of their team. This was impossible. Humans were supposed to be weak, frightened creatures that died easily. Perhaps, suggested one of his subordinates, we should call for additional ships. Zekthul's pride would not allow such an admission of failure. No, we will handle this ourselves. But clearly these humans are not typical of their species. They must be some kind of warriors. He had no idea that Morrison was just a mining ship captain, that Ben was a simple security guard, and that Danny was an engineer who had never fought anyone in his life. He could not understand that all humans were warriors when they needed to be.